Thank you. Please be seated.
Before we get started, Mr. Zion, ladies and gentlemen, I went to the media during the break and looked at all the videos. There was a reflection of it was Mr. Zion when he got up here close off the light from there. None of you guys were on, okay? So we checked that out for you during the break. It shouldn't be a problem. Okay, Mr. Zion, you may continue on.
Thank you.
Even though you were the reflection.
All right. Let's talk about Brandy McDonald. I'm going to show, okay to publish, right?
Yeah, just go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to show everyone, with the consent of the defense, State's Exhibit 5B. For the record, it is the orders, the medication orders for Brandy L. McDonald. So, Mr. Schroyer, have you seen this document before as part of preparation for testifying today?
Yes.
All right, and this is for, like I said...
Hold on 1 second. Can you guys see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure because this is a different screen than we're used to working with. I just wanted to make sure they could see it okay.
Yes, sir.
Continue on.
And what date was she admitted on?
1/11/18,
And what date was she discharged on?
1/14/18.
Okay. Showing you this 5B, which is a medication orders document from her medical records. Did she receive fentanyl?
Yes.
And who was that given? Who was that? Who was the ordering physician?
Dr. William Husel?
And we see an RN, so that would be Jamie Burke was the RN.
Yes.
And once again, this was for, what was the concentration at the top there?
Fentanyl 50 micrograms per ml.
And that's
This-
that's
yeah.
the bottle we saw?
No, that's the concentration. This was written for a 20 mil vial.
Okay,
Or
so
ordered as a 20
a
mil.
bigger bottle?
Yeah.
All right. And what were the order details for Brandy McDonald on 1/14, which is the date of this order?
1,000 micrograms, IV push, inject, a one-time order, routine, urgency, similar to the other ones. Ordered at 21/31.
Mm-hmm.
It was completed at 21:51, and it was pharmacist verified at 2200.
All right. Now, can you tell whether this was a prospective or a retrospective based on this document?
Based on this document, retrospective.
Retrospective. Now, for the next ones we're going to be talking about, I've also shown you what I've marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 24E. And once again, we got this overhead thing. Just as I slide it on across, do you recognize what this document is, 24E?
Yes.
And what is 24E in general and then specifically?
In general, it looks like a Pixis report.
Okay. Before you go further, tell the folks what a Pixis report is.
Sorry, Pixis report. It's a printout of all the activity that happened on that Pixis machine.
Is it patient-specific, this report?
This report is, yes, patient name, Brandy McDonald.
Okay. And does it appear, based on the dates on the Pixis report, to be related to 5B, the same hospital admission for Brandy McDonald between 1/11 and 1/14?
Appears to, yes.
Okay. And the first medication appears to be, transaction date was 1/12/18? Is that correct?
Yep.
And then going to the last page of 24E, the last one would have been on 1/14/2018? Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yes.
So is 24E all the medications per the Pixis report that Brandy McDonald received during her hospitalization between January 11th of 2018 and January 14th of 2018?
Ask that again, please.
Is 24E the Pixis log report for Brandy McDonald?
Right.
Is that the medication from the Pixis machine that she received for this hospital stay?
Yes.
Let's go through the columns at the top first. Station name, what does that mean?
What's underneath it? Let me see the first.
I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
That was the room number.
Okay, so that's where she's staying? That's her bed? Transaction date and time, just when it occurred? What's username mean?
The user that was signed into Pixis.
And then patient name is Brandy McDonald, right?
Yep.
And then that's just an ID number from the hospital? What does this mean, transaction type?
I don't remember. Without seeing the other options,
Well, there's another option at the bottom.
integrated weights. Okay, so, I don't rightly recall. Integrated waste, I know, that was where if you withdrew a medication and didn't use it all, and it was a controlled substance like, I think that was lorazepam, you had to document what happened to the part you didn't use. So it's a controlled substance, they as the hospital, track very closely all of it, all the time. So if you got, I don't know how much was in this vial, but let's just say it was a 5 ml vial and you used 2, that 3 has to be accounted for. So you could document that you wasted it, got rid of it, in the Pixis machine.
So you wasted it. What does that mean? You threw it away?
I don't know what the nurses did with it physically, but this is documenting, saying that part of that lorazepam that was probably the one drawn above it, it was the Venn order above it, integrated waste below it. The way I would read this is that somebody withdrew lorazepam, they did not use it all, and because they did not use it all, the remainder has to be accounted for. So the way that it was accounted for in this case is it was wasted. What physically happened to it, I don't know.
That'd be a question for one of our nurses. Okay. And
Did you say something?
Oh, I nodded, yes. Question for the nurse.
And then, once again, we have med ID. Is that just something specific? What is that?
I can't see that.
Oh, gosh, I'm terrible at this. Med ID, right here.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Med description, what is that?
A description of the med, so it tells you what it was.
Okay.
Or is.
Dispense amount, what does that mean?
How much was withdrawn?
Quantity, what does that mean?
Can you scroll over a little bit? Oh, okay. Dispense amount looks like strength. So I'm down at Tylenol, or yeah, Tylenol at the bottom here. Acetaminophen, 325 milligrams. Dispense amount was 650 milligrams. That would be a quantity of 2.
All right. So, for instance, you're pointing at the third one up from the bottom on January 14th of 2018 at 3:21 a.m., someone named Racy Wilkins got for Brandy McDonald acetaminophen at this strength, 650 milligrams, and Racy Wilkins got 2 of those for Brandy.
No,
No?
no. 650 milligrams was the total dose
Uh-huh.
or total amount withdrawn. So 650 milligrams. What is in the Pixis is 325 milligram tablets.
Got it.
So 2 of those equals 650.
Got it. Okay. Now, let's talk about this last column. What does that say at the top there? And then explain the answers in that column, or what's indicated in that column.
Override.
So what does override mean?
That literally the button, or the override function was used in the Pixis.
So that picture of the Pixis machine where you said there's an override button,
Right.
they can just hit that and it pops open, they get their medicine.
Yes.
And in those cases, if they put the order in, you get it retrospectively.
Yes.
Okay. So let's go, and you said looking at 5B, based on the times, you can tell this is retrospectively, looking at 5B and looking at the times of this medication for fentanyl and midazolam, you can tell it's retrospective. Does the Pixis log also tell us that with this last column? Looking at the last page of 24E, third one up from the bottom, this is January 14th at 21:33. That would be the nurse's name, Jamie Burke. Is that right?
Yes.
Gave Brandy McDonald fentanyl, right?
Yep.
And you said this is the strength size, right?
That's the thing in, that's the description of what is physically in the machine.
Okay. And looks like Jamie Burke got 900 micrograms out, right?
Yes?
And so the quantity is 9.
Correct.
Now, override, what does that indicate?
That the override function on the Pixis machine was utilized.
So that would have come through to you as retrospective review.
If an order was put in after the fact, yes.
And then the very next column, we have fentanyl at 100 micrograms. Is that right?
Yes.
And these are within 20 seconds of each other? Is that right?
Yes.
So that's the 1,000 micrograms we see on the orders. And then we've got on this last column, midazolam, right?
Right.
And for the record, that is midazolam. It says in parentheses, Versed. What does that mean?
That's the brand name of the medication.
All right. So midazolam and Versed are the same thing.
Yes.
And that was 6 milligrams.
Yes.
And to get to 6 milligrams, Nurse Burke had to pull out 3 vials.
Yes.
And was that done on override?
Yes.
We've talked a lot about fentanyl, but Jamie Burke was getting fentanyl and an IVP push of midazolam. What class of drug is midazolam/Versed?
A benzodiazepine.
Okay. And what is a benzodiazepine based upon your training and experience as a pharmacist? What is benzodiazepine? What is this used for?
Anxiety, mostly. In the case of midazolam, it's used for sedation, mostly.
All right.
Can I have that exhibit?
Yes. Okay. All right. I'm going to use your exhibit from yesterday. So I'm going to use defense exhibit DX-MCD1. MCD, I think it's actually MCD DX1, the big poster board. So yesterday, Mr. Baez said, pointing at Brandy McDonald, which is, where is she on this? Right here, pointing at Brandy McDonald. He said, Brandy McDonald was given 1,000 micrograms of fentanyl. That's true, isn't it?
Yes.
And then he pointed here, there's not a column here, but he pointed and said,
Your Honor, I'm just objecting to the form as to what Mr. Baez says. Mr. Schroyer wasn't here.
Okay, I agree. Let's take it out in full form.
okay, if that was said in this courtroom yesterday by someone, and said, Brandy McDonald was approved by pharmacy. Was Brandy McDonald approved by pharmacy? You're the pharmacist. Did you approve that?
I wouldn't use the word approve, no.
What word would you use?
Retrospectively, the order was verified, but it all happened before it was given before we were made aware of it.
And what do you do with those retrospective things in your queue?
You just verify them to get rid of them.
So where was pharmacy on Brandy McDonald?
Unaware.
Bonnie Austin. States Exhibit 10B, 24J. Publishing, for the record, Bonnie Austin's orders, medication orders, States Exhibit 10B. When she came in, what date?
9:30.
What date was she discharged?
9:30.
So let me ask you this, we're using discharge. What if someone dies in the hospital? What term did they use? Are you aware?
I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. Discharge date of the same day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Looking at this order sheet, does this appear to be fair and accurate?
Appears to be.
All right, so on 9/30 of 2018, how much did what did Bonnie Austin get?
There was an order of fentanyl, ordered at 23:10.
Okay, and 23:10, what time, what does that mean, in case people aren't aware of?
11:10 in the evening, 11:10 p.m.
All right, and just for clarification, this is a 24-hour clock, like military time?
Correct.
So 23:10 translates to?
11:10 p.m.
Okay. So that's right after you get on, or is that right after the daytime people leave, or the evening people leave?
Second one. Right after the evening left at 11.
Okay. And who ordered it?
Dr. William Husel,
And how much of this fentanyl, at this dose, at this strength rather, did he order?
600 micrograms, IV push, inject once, routine order.
All right, and this was done by a nurse, Ebro?
Yep.
And then also, did Bonnie Austin get something else at that same time?
Midazolam,
All right. And so is this also at the same time as the fentanyl?
appears to be yes.
And how much midazolam, Versed, did Bonnie Austin receive?
6 milligrams, IV push, inject once, routine urgency.
What's that?
I was just reading the order there.
Okay.
Inject once, routine.
Okay. And over 2 to 5 minutes? And that's the nurse again? All right. And here we have, and this is, I believe, on all of these orders, pharmacist verified, not reviewed. What does that mean to you?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, let's look at the 24J. Once again, do you recognize what 24J is for the record?
Yes.
And what is 24J?
A Pixis log,
Specific to what patient?
Bonnie Austin.
And is it for the same date that we just saw those orders for?
Yes.
And so here we have, on the orders, we see 2 medications. What's this first column up here about?
NC unlocked door. Unlocked door side. It appears to be an override, last column, to unlock the refrigerated meds door.
So that would be the big thing next to the Pixis machine?
Could be.
Okay. But let's talk about the medications here. Do these appear to be the medications that are indicated on those order forms?
Yes.
And who's Jason Sims?
The user that was signed into Pixis.
Do you know if he was a nurse or not?
I do not.
Well, Jason Sims' name is certainly not this name here, right?
Correct.
Ebrow. And for the record, I'm referring back to 10B. It looks like the orders indicate it was entered and electrically signed by someone named Ebrow, RN. But on the Pixis log, it looks like someone named Sims. Jason Sims is the person who's the user for these drugs. The person, not the user. person using Pixis. All right, 600 milligrams, so he had to get 6 of those out,
600 micrograms, yes.
okay? And override,
Yes.
override. And then for the midazolam, 6 milligrams, and they come in 2 milligram vials, so had to get 3 of them, right? And override. Is that right?
I'm sorry, I can't.
Right, yes, I'm shaking my head, I apologize.
We had them talking in your corner too, so.
Okay. So on Bonnie Austin, where is pharmacy? You're the pharmacist that's on those records. On Bonnie Austin, were you aware that that was going on?
No,
Did you set this system up?
no.
Let's talk about Jack Timmons.
Oh, no, your last step?
Oh, yeah.
No.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Are we good on these? Ms. Menashe, are we good on these?
Yes, yes.
Jack Timmons. Showing you for what I've marked for identification purposes, has State's Exhibit 11B. Jack Timmons, when did he come into the hospital?
10/22/18,
When was he discharged from the hospital?
10/24/18,
Okay. Looking at 11B, the orders, the medications. Did Dr. Husel order any fentanyl for Jack Timmons during his hospital stay?
yes.
All right. So let's go through the fentanyl order. On 10/24/18, right?
Right,
At 03, now is that 3 p.m. or is that 3 a.m.?
3 a.m.,
So this is during your shift, this is 3 a.m. in the morning.
correct.
Order status completed. Ordering physician, that's Dr. Husel, right?
Right,
And this would be the nurse, Jacob Deemer, right?
right.
And what's the order details?
1,000 micrograms IV push, inject once.
Okay. The midazolam, was that also given at the same time?
Appears to be yes.
And the physician,
Dr. William Husel,
the nurse,
Jake Deemer,
the amount?
10 milligrams IV push once.
Okay. Is there another medication given at this time?
Not right at this time, but it appears 5 minutes later, yes.
What is this medication?
Hydromorphone,
Can you please spell that for the record?
HYDROMORPHONE.
All right, and we got that lettering, because there must be something out there in the world that sounds like this. So, we also see that hydromorphine has, in the parentheses, what's this word?
Dilaudid,
And can you spell that for the record?
DILAUDID,
So why do we got 2 names up here?
generic versus brand name,
Just like the Versed and midazolam,
correct.
okay? So 5 minutes after the fentanyl and the midazolam, we've got hydromorphine being ordered by who?
Dr. William Husel,
And the nurse,
Jake Deemer,
and the amount.
10 milligrams IV push once.
What is hydromorphine, Dilaudid, classified as?
An opiate,
What is fentanyl classified as?
an opiate,
Based on your training and experience as a pharmacist, is it advisable as a pharmacist to give a patient within 5 minutes of each other opioids from 2 different types of opioids at the same time, within 5 minutes of each other?
it depends.
Okay, it depends.
Wait, hold on.
It's a good lawyerly answer. All right.
Your Honor, I want to move to strike the lawyerly answer as to commentary on that.
Okay, that'll be stricken.
Thanks. It was actually his answer, was it depends.
It was, and she got that down. His commentary on the way back is stricken. Your
What-
disregard of the lawyerly comment.
What does it depend on?
A lot of things.
Like what?
Doses, the condition of the patient overall, the opioid history of the patient, if they're new to opioids or if they've been on them for a long time. Every case would be different.
Okay. Turning the page on James Timmons here, to page 2 of 11B. He's gotten fentanyl, midazolam at 3 in the morning, hydromorphine at 3:05. We turn the page. In addition to the hydromorphine at 3:05, was there another drug ordered and given by Dr. Husel and Jake Deemer?
You pull it down a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
What, if any, other drugs were given to James Timmons per the orders?
At 3:05, it appears there was a completed order for midazolam, 20 milligrams IV push once.
Okay. And then finally, at 3:23,
3:23 was midazolam,
by Dr. Husel
correct?
and nurse,
Jake Deemer,
and how much?
10 milligrams IV push once.
Okay. So to summarize, if I may, between 3 a.m. and 3:23 a.m., the orders reflect that James Timmons was given 1,000 micrograms of fentanyl, 10 milligrams of midazolam, 10 milligrams of hydromorphine, 20 milligrams at 3:05 of midazolam, and another 10 milligrams of midazolam. Is that correct?
How did you start that? I don't need the drugs. What was the word you used? Did you say it was ordered or was given?
Per the orders, this is what the orders reflect were ordered.
Correct.
Okay. That's what these records reflect.
That is what was ordered, correct.
All right. Looking at 24K, once again, this would be the Pixis log for patient victim James Timmons. Is that correct?
Appears to be yes.
Let's go to the last page. Do we see these orders for fentanyl and midazolam here on the last page of 24K?
Yes.
Okay. So starting up here, the second column down, we see that at 10:24:18, at 2:34, Earl Huron, right? Do you know who Earl Huron is?
I do not.
It's not Jake Deemer, though, right?
Correct.
All right.
Well, I would assume so, yes.
I'm sorry, I can't.
I would assume that they are not the same person, yes.
Okay. Patient James Timmons, it looks like from the Pixis log, someone named Earl Huron got how much fentanyl out?
800 micrograms.
And it looks like within a minute, Earl Huron for James Timmons got how much more fentanyl out?
200 micrograms.
And would that be equal to 1,000 micrograms?
Yes.
And would that correspond?
Hold on.
I need to correct something I said.
Go ahead.
I want to correct something I said earlier. You asked about the far left column. What was that? I said it was a room number. After seeing more of them, that's the Pixis machine identity. It's not a room number. That is how they classified which machine it came out of. So I apologize, I misspoke.
Okay.
He was trying to blurt it out, and both of you were talking at the same time, and her poor fingers were starting to smoke, so we wanted to make sure, get it straight, now go back to where you were.
Okay. This is at 2:35 in the morning, right?
Right?
And this is at 2:34 in the morning, right?
Right?
Going back to 11B. And those two orders together equal 1,000 micrograms, right?
Right?
And here we have the order for 1,000 micrograms, right?
Right?
By Dr. Husel. Different nurse,
correct? Different
Okay.
nurse?
Just so everyone's clear, this is for James Timmons, and this is the same hospital stay, same day, right? Does the Pixis,
Sorry, can you let the witness answer the question, Your Honor?
Just, can you move it over a little bit so I can see the date?
yeah, I'm sorry. The date for James Timmons is,
10/24 was the order date, and the Pixis report there. Yes. 10/24, yeah, okay. Correct.
sir, does it appear that Earl Huron is pulling 1,000 micrograms of fentanyl out of the Pixis machine almost a half hour before the order comes through?
It appears so, yes.
And how, what, if any, button is Nurse Huron pressing to get this fentanyl, 1,000 micrograms of fentanyl? What button is he pushing?
Objection, override,
Right, there we go.
Thanks for the assist.
Hold on, everybody. Okay. It's not one I've heard before, but,
And I know my rules, but it's not one of those.
yes,
I believe it calls for speculation
okay.
as to what another nurse would do.
Okay, overruled. Okay. Now, that we've dealt with that, do you remember the question?
No.
Let's re-ask the question.
According to State's Exhibit 24K, looking at the last column, going by the records, 24K, which you've identified has the Pixis log for patient James Timmons, what button was pushed on the Pixis machine to get this 1,000 micrograms of fentanyl out?
It was done via override.
And when you say that, that's the button on the machine, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And, I'm sorry, I'm just got to get used to this. And those come in retrospective to you.
Depends.
We'll get to that in just a minute. And then we see the midazolam, also on this page. Earl Huron, right? And getting this midazolam out. And what time did he get that out?
2:52.
And that is 8 minutes before Dr. Husel ordered it, right?
It would appear, yes. It would appear, yes.
And here we've got Emma Young, the next entry down. Oh, I'm sorry. Earl Huron also pulled the hydromorphine, also known as Dilaudid, out too, right?
Yes.
And this is also before the order was even entered into the machine, right?
Yes.
And then we've got someone named Emma Young, right?
Right?
Getting lorazepam out. Is that right?
Yep.
How much of lorazepam did she get out?
10 milligrams.
And this is for patient Jack Timmons, right?
James Timmons, yes.
James Timmons, my apology. What's lorazepam? For the record, spelled Lorazepam. What's lorazepam?
It's a benzodiazepine.
Is it a different type of benzodiazepine than midazolam?
It's a different medication, yes.
Okay, and lorazepam is also known as Ativan. We can see there.
Is that what the,
Oh, yes, I didn't realize that was a question, sorry.
Right,
Yes,
I'm just asking, yeah, that's so, once again, brand name versus generic name.
correct,
Ativan, for the record, is Ativan, and that was 10 milligrams, right?
correct.
That comes in 2 milligram doses, so Emma Young had to get 5 of those out, right?
Right.
These are all by override, correct?
The two I can see are yes.
Ah,
Yes.
okay, well, I'm not good at this. Thank you. Okay. And then we've got Emma Young for James Timmons getting lorazepam out, right? More lorazepam out, correct? We're looking at the second to bottom one, right?
Correct. No, this is, it looks like it's being wasted.
And this is being wasted. So that means it wasn't given, that's how you interpret this. You don't know the physical thing, how they do to waste it, but it means it wasn't given to the patient.
Whatever part of it is being wasted, correct.
And then finally, the last entry here on State's Exhibit 24K. Finally, we see Jake Deemer's name, right?
Right?
And he's the guy on the order for all of the meds, right?
Right?
He got more fentanyl out, correct?
No, that looks like a waste order.
Well, he got it out, but he had to waste it. He had to account for it, correct?
Say that again?
I mean, it's on here because it got out, but it wasn't given to the patient.
Objection leading, also misstates the other.
I'll let him clarify it. Do you understand the question?
I do not.
Okay. This waste you said here at the last line,
Right?
does that relate to the previous draw?
It may.
It may. Okay.
Okay. That was not done via override, or explain it to us then. If I'm misstating anything, please explain what these two columns mean, these last two rows mean.
Why don't you do this? Why don't you bring it up so he can take a good look at it, because you've got it so far back.
Well, I was told that I had to zoom out. I'm just doing my best here, Judge.
It's okay. We'll bring you in a 13-year-old tomorrow to help.
I don't know what this means specifically. Sorry, I was covering the mic. I know the waste function in Pixis is there so that you can document medication not used, not given. That it appears that is what was done with lorazepam and fentanyl, but it doesn't have a quantity here. And I know it exists. I know that the nurses do it. How they do it, I don't know.
Yeah, we only want you to testify about what you know. All right. Based upon your knowledge of the matters that we're here for today, were those all the patients you were involved with?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay, that you've been questioned about specifically by everyone in this?
Yes.
All right. In preparation for today's trial, did I ask you to review a statement by the CDC guideline recommendation number 11? Or did your attorney ask you to review that at my request?
I'd like to see it, but
Okay, well, it's this thing. I was just
Where is this in this book?
This is just it's not, this piece of paper.
It's not a medical fact. Where is that a discovery?
It's not, it's just a question I'm going to ask.
What's the question?
Are you familiar with the CDC guideline?
If you ask me the guideline number 11, and without reading it, we'll see what it says, but you can't read off of it.
I can certainly ask a statement and see, just because it's yes or no doesn't mean. Let's just see how it goes.
Okay, guys,
May I ask a question, Judge?
I would like for you to ask a question, and we'll see where we go with it.
Thank you, sir. Sir, based on your training and experience, are you aware of any risks involving the concurrent use of opioid pain medication and benzodiazepines?
yes.
And what are those risks?
Your Honor, first of all, I'd object. He's not been tendered as an expert. Also, we haven't been given what is being asked about in the discovery.
Okay?
I'm not tendering him as an expert. He's a pharmacist with training and experience, and I'm asking based on his training and
So
experience.
that's the very definition of an expert, isn't it? Based upon training and experience, you want him to opine what the result is?
No, I'm just asking, was he trained or does he have experience with this, of a risk between using opioid pain medications and benzodiazepines? And he said yes.
Okay?
And I'm going to ask, what is that risk?
Aren't you asking for an opinion then?
No, I'm asking what his training and experience taught him.
Same objection, Your Honor. That's what an opinion is.
Okay. Lay some foundation before you get your answer.
In school, in pharmacy school, did you learn about benzodiazepines?
Yes.
Did you learn about opioid pain medication?
Yes.
And was that part of the test to become a pharmacist in the state of Ohio?
Specifically, I don't remember.
Is it part of the expected knowledge of a pharmacist in the state of Ohio?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did you learn about concurrent use of opioid pain medication and benzodiazepines?
Same objection, Your Honor.
Do you want a voir dire?
Sure.
Take a shot.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Diane Menashe on behalf of Dr. Husel.
Hello?
You want me to call you Mr. Schroyer or Talon?
Talon's fine.
Talon? Awesome. You were just asked about your schooling, based upon your schooling, and then CDC guidelines. First of all, for the jury, what does CDC stand for?
Okay, let's do a voir dire.
Just, I'll get right to the questions about the CDC, but I first want to make sure the jury knows what CDC is.
Okay.
The Centers for Disease Control?
And as part of your schooling, did you learn about the CDC guidelines as a whole?
I don't recall.
You don't recall.
Right.
As part of your time at Mount Carmel, the relevant time of 2017 and 2018, did you have an opportunity while you were working at Mount Carmel Hospital to review the CDC guidelines, if you recall?
Would I have had an opportunity? Yes.
Did you?
Not that I recall.
Have you reviewed the entirety of the CDC guidelines between being terminated from Mount Carmel and today's date?
I have not.
Nothing further.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we talked about experts before. You guys can give whatever value. I'm basically a gatekeeper. Okay, you guys can give whatever value you want based upon what you heard about his experience. Mr. Zion?
Thank you, sir. All right, just take the CDC out of this. Going back to what we said, you learned about benzodiazepines, right?
Right?
Do you recall that?
Yes.
You learned about opioid pain medications.
Yes.
What, if anything, did you learn about the concurrent use of them?
That the side effects, or I guess the effects period, can be synergistic.
Tell the jury what synergy means. And spell that, I don't know. No, you got it? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm terrible.
Now. Relax.
No, I'm not sure I could. I have to
Okay,
think about it. Spelling is not my strong suit.
That's okay.
So tell us about the synergistic effects, what that means.
Very quickly, that the sum is more than the parts. So when you get effect X with just this drug and effect Y with this drug, when you put them together, it might be more than 1 plus 1 might equal 3, basically.
Okay. Are there any risks associated with the concurrent use of narcotic pain medication and benzodiazepines?
Your Honor, asked and answered.
I'll permit it.
What did you say, I'm sorry?
I said you can answer.
Okay. Yes.
What are those risks?
This same risks of taking either one separately, just magnified. So, specifics?
Yeah, specific risks. Yeah.
Largely respiratory depression.
What's respiratory depression?
Your desire, your automatic urge to breathe is reduced.
Thank you. Back to James Timmons. Now, did this come in, we saw it was done on override. How did you become aware of this? Was this retrospective or something else?
You said this is James Timmons?
This is James Timmons. This is on,
Yeah.
just to get you back, October 24th of 2018.
Okay.
You're in the central pharmacy. Who are you with?
Greg Dresbach?
Okay. It is, what time was that in the morning? 3 o'clock, was that it? Yeah, 3:05.
Okay.
How, if at all, you become aware of what's going on with James Timmons out there on the floor?
I got a phone call from one of the nurses.
Do you remember the name of the nurse?
I do not.
What, without telling us what that nurse said, what did you do next? Well, let me ask you this. What was the nature of the call? Was it for instance, was it a question? Was it commentary?
It's transitional. I'm gonna give you a little leeway here. Let's get to it.
Yes, the nurse had a question about the medication, the MAR, medication administration record.
And we've seen one of those today, earlier. Is that right? That's the question. Do you remember
Remember seeing
29
him on
BB?
here today?
Yes.
Okay. What was the question? Not for the truth of it, but what was the question, so we know what you did next, if any?
Question was,
Objection as to the question. It calls for hearsay. What did you do next? No objection to that portion of the question.
She's right technically. Re-ask.
Okay. What did you do based on this phone call?
what did I do based on this phone call?
Yeah, what's your next action? You're on the phone, the nurse says something, and the judge allows you to say it's a question about the MARS.
Right, I looked at the MAR.
You looked at the MARS. What happened next?
I saw the medications that had been given.
Go ahead.
I saw the medications that had been given according to the MAR.
What happened next?
I don't think much until the end of my shift at 7 in the morning.
Okay.
I mean, related to this,
Well, what reaction, if any, did you have when you looked at the MARS, the medications that were given?
I see. I was shocked
Why were you shocked?
because there were four medications given, or 4 sets of medications given, the grand total of which I thought was large.
The word you used was shocked?
Sure.
Well, you just said that, is
Yes,
that right?
shocked.
Are any other doctors ordering those amounts of medications that we saw for Jack Simmons?
Not that I've seen, no.
So you're shocked. What, if anything, do you do? Do you talk to Greg? What's going on? This is 3 in the morning. What happens next?
I may have talked to Greg, I don't remember specifically. What I do remember is writing down on a scrap of paper the patient's name and the doses and the times, and then I gave those to Randy when he got to work in the morning at 7.
Was this order even retrospective when that nurse called? Did it show up in your queue yet?
I had never seen an order for those.
So this would be, what was talked about yesterday, a complete bypass of pharmacy.
To my knowledge, yes.
Is that part of your shock?
Yes.
So now, Mr. Timmons, referring back to MCD-DX1, Mr. Timmons down here, on October 24th, where is pharmacy? Your testimony is that you're completely out of the loop at this point, not even retrospective?
Correct.
Did you set this system up?
No, sir.
Thank you. It's always helpful. I don't mind interruption.
Sorry.
Yes. Yes.
So, what time's your shift in?
7.
Is that the next thing you can remember happening with the Jack Timmons stuff?
Yes.
You said, you told the folks here, you wrote it down on a piece of paper?
Right.
You mean like literally like a little piece of scrap paper?
Yes. Old-fashioned pen and paper.
What'd you write down, if you recall?
The patient's name, maybe the med-rec number, just so he could have been identified in the computer, an identifier for the patient, the drug and the strength, and the times they were administered.
What, if anything, did you do when you got off work that day? Now, this is, what day of the week is this?
It's a Thursday morning.
All right, so that night, I think we established is like your Friday night, if you're working an 8 to 5.
Correct.
Monday through Friday.
Correct.
So what happens when you get off shift? Is there a gap, or does somebody come in and is there right away?
people are supposed to be there by 7.
Okay. What's your memory of October, the morning of Thursday, October 24th?
So before I left at 7, I pulled Randy into his office and just sat down and showed him the papers.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there.
Okay.
Who's Randy?
My direct supervisor,
And what kind of, based on your knowledge of Randy, what kind of training is he?
he's a pharmacist.
Okay. So he's one of the other pharmacists that works at Mount Carmel.
He was the operations manager, yes.
So he's above you.
Correct.
All right. What do you say to him?
I don't remember specifically. I can give you the gist.
Well, give us the gist of what you said to Randy.
That was a short meeting, but just that this is, I'm shocked, this is alarming, and the optics of this, no matter what's going on in there, the optics of this are not great.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the rest of the evening, I guess you could think on the drugs that were being used, and I could only think of 2 real cases in my head. That was that these were actually given to the patient, or someone is stealing drugs, and neither of which are really ideal.
All those other ones we've talked about before that you were, your names on, either as a prospective review or a retrospective review. Did you know what procedure those were being used for?
At the time, no.
When you called Dr. Husel on Janet Kavanaugh about the extra 0, did he tell you what procedure he was using?
No.
Did you find out when you talked to Randy what procedure all those drugs we just went over were being used for?
Yes.
What procedure were those drugs being used for?
Palliative vent withdrawal.
And did that, in your mind, raise any concerns?
Yes,
Why?
because it doesn't look good.
Explain it to them. Why doesn't that look good?
It's a very large dose of medication at a palliative withdrawal, larger than it maybe needed to be, and it just, it didn't look good.
Okay? So you have 2 concerns, right?
Potential concerns, yes.
Two potential. Either it's more than it needs to be, is that right?
Right?
Or someone up there is stealing drugs.
Right.
That's also known as diversion in the hospital setting.
Objection, Your Honor, leaving?
It's transition, I'll let him have it.
I'm sorry, I'll rephrase. Is that also known as diversion in the hospital setting?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So, why are you telling Randy, your supervisor, about your concerns?
Self-preservation,
What do you mean by that?
that's the irony of this whole situation, at least for me personally, is the real motive for me bringing this to Randy's attention was I didn't want to end up in a witness chair in a court of law.
All right? Why would you think you'd end up in a witness chair in the court of law?
I didn't think I would, just it was a possibility. And if you see something and you don't say something, you can be accused of being party to that something.
And the 2 somethings in this case was somebody's really giving this to a
Objection, Your
patient.
Honor, leaving?
It is leading, go ahead, rephrase.
And what are the 2 concerns you have in your mind, those 2 somethings that could end you up right there are?
Objection asked and answered.
I'll let him have it as a summary, go ahead.
That it was larger than it maybe needed to be, or someone was stealing drugs, also known as diversion.
Based on your conversation with Randy Miles, are you recommended to do anything?
Yes.
What, if anything, are you recommended to do?
He asked me to put in a voice report.
All right, let me hear that term many times. Voice, is that just, has that V-O-I-C-E?
It may be an acronym, I don't remember.
All right, what's a voice report?
It's the hospital's internal incident reporting system. It was not specific to pharmacy or any one department. It was on Mount Carmel's intranet, the way that you reported anything.
Like what? Like you say anything?
Like an incident here, or if a patient received a wrong drug, or, sorry, my bias is sort of towards pharmacy examples, but it doesn't have to be anything egregious. Somebody slipped and fall in the hallway, like you could put in a voice report about it. It was just any sort of incident that you thought the hospital should be aware of, you could put in a voice report
Okay, had you ever put in a voice report before?
once.
All right. Well, did you put in a voice report?
I did not,
Why not?
because they aren't quick.
Okay.
I'm sorry, say that again.
They're not quick. Lots of questions, lots of type in the box. They take a long time.
Okay. So do you say anything to Randy about whether you're going to put in a voice report or not?
Yes, I told him I would do it when I got to work on Sunday night.
All right. Do you hear anything about it before you show up to work on Sunday night?
No, sir.
What happened, if anything, when you got to work on Sunday night? Did you find out anything about this voice report?
I don't remember if it was right when I showed up or not, but at some point on my first shift back the next week, I was informed that the voice report had already been done and I no longer had to do it.
Okay. And in your mind at this point, is there anything else you need to do regarding your concerns about the dosages and drugs given to Jack Timmons?
No.
You said that there was a see something, say something. Was that a policy you were taught or just a general principle?
Just a general principle.
Did you ever receive emails from your supervisors about dosages and drugs as part of the safety culture at Mount Carmel?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what I've marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 20D. We good? Do you recognize 20D?
I do.
What is 20D?
An email from Josh Mush.
All right. Here's another name, Josh Mush. For the record, that is M-U-C-H.
I think it's SCH.
I was trying to guess. Here, let me find it here. I'll do that later. Does this appear to be a fair and accurate copy of that?
Appears to be yes.
May I publish, Your Honor?
Any objections?
No.
Okay. What is the date? And I'm going to zoom in a little bit because I think I can get the whole thing here. That's the wrong way. Okay.
Whoa.
Too much? All right. Zoom out.
Felt like it was an oncoming car.
Zoom out. All right. Judge, can you ask if everyone can see that?
Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So up here at the 2 line, do you recognize the names that are in the 2 line?
I do.
Who are those people? Do you know what their jobs are?
Yes.
And what are their jobs at Mount Carmel?
They're all pharmacists.
Okay. And there it is, from Joshua Mush, M-U-S-C-H, right? And Josh Mush's job at Trinity, at Mount Carmel is?
He's a pharmacist too.
Okay. And what's the subject of this email?
High dose ketamine and fentanyl.
And what is the date of this?
June 14 of 18.
All right. And what's the subject?
High dose ketamine and fentanyl.
All right, we talked about fentanyl. What's ketamine?
It's another controlled substance.
What is ketamine? And, Your Honor, for the record, to be clear, we are not asking his opinion to proffer anything regarding medical diagnosis and treatment as an expert. We're just asking his questions based on his training and experience as a pharmacist. So we're not proffering him in any way as an
Okay.
expert.
I don't think she has a problem with that concept. It's when you went a little further with it.
Well,
So-
I get it. We just took the CDC thing out. I get it. All right. So what's ketamine just as a pharmacist, tell the folks what ketamine is.
Sedative,
Yeah?
controlled substance used for sedation.
Now, looking back, was ketamine one of those drugs that a nurse or somebody else up on the floor could push the override button for?
Not that I'm aware of.
So what's Josh asking you all in this?
Should we just read it?
Well, it's up there, but documents don't speak for themselves. Reading that, what is he asking there?
Essentially, there have been some doses of these two medication, and wondering if anyone had any more information they could share with the rest of the staff.
All right. So his concern, I was wondering, there have been some recent ICU, 1 gram of ketamine? Is that a big dose of ketamine?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, is the lack of foundation, also just reading from the exhibit, but it's really a foundational question based on his experience.
Okay. Do you have experience with the administering of ketamine?
Administration, no.
So you've never filled a script for it?
No, not in that sense.
Well, I think administering, as a pharmacist, do you put it into people?
No.
No, I don't mean that way. When I say administer, I mean honor a script or an order.
I have seen orders for ketamine, yes. I have verified orders for ketamine, yes.
I still don't think it gets you to where your question is. You might want to lay a little bit more foundation with it.
Okay. As part of your job at Mount Carmel, have you verified orders for ketamine before?
Yes.
Can you estimate how many times?
A dozen?
Okay. And based on that experience of maybe a dozen times, you kind of shrug your shoulders, that's why I say maybe. Is that an estimate?
Yes.
Is 1 gram of ketamine, based on your experience, a big dose of ketamine?
It's on the higher end, yes.
Okay. And then 1 milligram of fentanyl. Is that the same thing? Is that the same size we were talking about in the orders?
1 milligram is 1,000 micrograms, same thing. Just different ways of saying it.
All right. So for someone like me that didn't do well in math or science, a microgram then is 1/1000th of a milligram.
Correct.
And the Pixis, they have them in the microgram. They don't put them in milligram bottles.
Correct. What, you're talking about fentanyl?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. And what's Josh asking y'all in this email 20D?
If anyone had more,
Asked and answered.
I asked what he was talking about, now I'm asking what he's asking them.
I'll permit it. Go ahead.
asking if anyone had any more information about the using these doses. I can't read it. Any more information about the use of these two drugs?
All right. And from what standpoint is he asking you these things?
Safety.
Okay. Do you remember getting this email back in June of 2018?
Yes,
Well, did you give Josh a call?
I did not.
Why not?
I didn't have any more information to share.
You had seen these doses from Dr. Husel?
Correct?
Had you seen these doses from anyone else?
Not in my experience.
Did you know who he was talking about when you saw this email?
Yes.
Okay, that's
Jackson,
speculation.
Seriously, speculation.
Strike the question and answer, ladies and gentlemen, disregard, rephrase.
Based on your training and experience, verifying orders in the ICU, was anyone besides Dr. Husel giving 1,000 or 1 milligram doses, 1,000 microgram, or equivalently, 1 milligram of fentanyl?
Asked and answered, Your Honor.
He asked me to lay a foundation for the next question.
Yeah, okay, I'll give it to you, go ahead and answer.
Anyone else?
In my experience, no.
So, did you know who Josh was talking
Okay,
Objection as to speculation. As to what
Sustained.
Josh is talking about.
about? Well, who did you think Josh was talking about?
that's a different question.
There we go, okay. You get there. Who did you think Josh was talking about?
Dr. Husel.
All right. You didn't respond to this?
I did not.
Let's talk about Dr. Husel and ketamine. I think you said ketamine can't get over it.
Correct. Well, at the time, I don't know what it is now. At the time, it could not.
That's everything we're talking about is that. Did Dr. Husel ever call you about him not being able to get things out on override, him not being able to get ketamine out on override?
Yes.
Were you ever present when Greg Dressbaugh received a phone call from Dr. Husel about him not being able to get ketamine out on override?
Yes.
So yesterday it was said that doctors had no idea how the Pixis machine worked. Dr. Husel, based on your conversations regarding the override function regarding ketamine, did it appear to you that he knew how the Pixis machine worked and its override function?
Your Honor, objection as to speculation as to what Dr. Husel thought. The question is also compound.
Okay, overall, can you answer the question?
Can you ask it again, please?
Based on Dr. Husel calling you and your awareness that he would call Greg Dressbaugh about his inability to override ketamine on the Pixis, did it appear to you that Dr. Husel knew about the override function on Pixis?
It appeared so, yes.
Just summarize and bring us back to where we were in this tale. You put in your voice report, or the voice report's been put in, right? You're out. Did your bit, see, what happens next? What's the next thing you remember happens?
Nothing until it was like 2 or 3 weeks later, there was another case came up that Greg saw.
Were you present that night when Greg saw that?
Yes.
What happened with that? Just your observations of what you saw.
Greg sent an email to Randy.
Okay. What happened next?
Uh,
Do you remember the date of that?
Thanksgiving-ish, so it was.
So your report to Randy and the subsequent voice report was in October
Correct.
of 18. This is now Thanksgiving-ish of November.
Yeah, a couple, 3 weeks later.
You were there with Greg, right? You become aware of another issue, and Greg, and that's Greg Dressbaugh, sends an email.
Correct.
What happens next?
It was a day or two later, Greg sent another email because he saw another incident.
What happened next?
Next thing I remember, we got an email, everyone in the hospital got an email that Dr. Husel had lost privileges.
Was this unusual to get emails like this saying a doctor had lost privileges?
No.
So that, let's just say hypothetically a doctor quits. Do you get an email when a doctor quits, moves on to something else?
It would
like
just
that?
say that they no longer have privileges at the hospital.
And that's the email you got regarding
Correct.
Dr. Husel. What happens next? Do you remember the date of that?
Not specifically, no. Early December, but I don't remember the date.
What happens next?
The interview with Homicide was after that.
Yeah? What date was that?
December 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there.
Is there anything I could show you which would help refresh your recollection as to the specific date you interviewed with CPD Homicide?
Yes?
And would that be the summary of your interview with them?
Yes?
Do you have yours? Because I think I filled mine out and not yours. The interview summary?
CBD somewhere?
Uh-huh.
I can get it.
Okay.
Right here.
For purposes of refreshing your memory, it's just this, I guess we have to mark it.
Stipulate to the date.
Okay. Well, I don't want to do. Okay. They'll stipulate that you were interviewed on Saturday, December 8th, 2018 at 12:25 PM. Does that sound right?
It does.
So everybody's agreeing that's the date of the interview?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
That's a true fact, then?
And where did it occur?
At Mount Carmel West.
Okay.
I'm sorry, say that again.
At Mount Carmel West.
And during this interview, what did you tell the police regarding your knowledge of the ordering habits, medication habits of Dr. Husel?
I don't remember.
Is there anything I can show you?
Yes, there is.
If I show you this summary?
Object to that, it's a summary. If you want to show them a transcript, if you have one, I have no objection to that.
Well, Judge, the witness can be refreshed with anything, and he said the summary would help
You
refresh his
said
memory.
the summary, you may show it to him.
Thank you. I suppose we should mark it.
Yes.
All reports Exhibit 2.
Okay?
Okay. Does that help refresh your memory as to what you told CPD?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, put that down.
Yeah, I got you. Do you recall the word you used when describing the dose that you, regarding the dose of Timmons?
Big?
What about your state of mind? Do you remember getting a statement as to the state of mind that you were in when you saw that dose on Mr. Timmons?
Alarmed?
And do you remember why you told the police you reported this alarming dose?
Because I thought someone was stealing drugs.
Okay. And did you also talk about finding out for the first time what these doses were being used for?
Yes.
And what was the purported reason for these, what was the procedure that these drugs were being used for?
Palliative ventilation withdrawal.
Say that again.
Palliative vent withdrawal?
Palliative ventilation withdrawal is what he said. See, we got these plexiglass and they're like being in a bowl, okay? When you look that way to talk to them, I get a better hear of you because it bounces off that glass and comes over. So that's why she sometimes can't hear you depending upon which way you turn.
Understood.
And it's the same problem that people have throughout the room, okay? We're just adjusting because of COVID,
Okay.
so be patient with it.
No,
okay?
no worries.
Go ahead.
And if these drugs had actually been used, in your mind, for palliative ventilation withdrawal, would that have been alarming?
It didn't look good.
Were you also interviewed by the pharmacy board investigators?
Yes.
Who is the pharmacy board?
They are the state body that licenses pharmacists in Ohio.
All right. And do they have investigators?
Yes.
Did a couple of them come to visit you sometime thereafter?
Yes.
All right. And did you have a chance to review your interview with them prior to today's testimony?
Yes.
All right. Let's go through what you told the investigators. Do you remember?
Hold on. Counsel,
Yeah.
Continue on.
All right. Directing your attention to your interview with the pharmacy board investigators. Specifically, what, if anything, did you tell them about, and I've just been admonished, I keep referring to James Timmons as Jack Timmons. James Nick Timmons, the one you talked to Randy about. What, if anything, did you tell the investigators regarding where your voice report, where the voice report, because it's really Randy's voice report, right?
Whoever wrote it.
Yeah. The voice report regarding James Timmons, whether that was posted anywhere.
Yeah, it was printed off and hanging just in the hallway across from the break room in the pharmacy.
All right. Still directing your attention to what you told the pharmacy board investigators. What, if anything, did you say about Dr. Husel and his likes or dislikes for compliant patients?
That it appeared he liked compliant patients.
And what, if anything, did you say regarding how he got compliant patients?
That it appeared that patients on a ventilator are compliant patients.
Was there anything about their level of consciousness that you specifically told them?
Objection leading, Your Honor?
Well, I get the question out.
Let me rephrase. What, if anything, did you tell them about their level of consciousness on the ventilators?
You have to be sedated to be on a ventilator.
What, if anything, did you tell the pharmacy board regarding your knowledge of the existence of palliative order sets?
Your Honor, I'm going to
Okay,
object.
I lost, as soon as you turned around and walked away, I couldn't hear the end of your question.
What, if anything, did you tell during this interview with the pharmacy board regarding your knowledge of an order set for palliative withdrawals?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. First of all, I think the pharmacy board inquiry is now a relevance issue. But I also, I think it's a relevant issue. It's also leading, there's other multiple problems with the line of questioning, I think.
Okay. Overruled. Can you answer the question? Of course, you don't remember it, right?
To be safe.
What, if anything, did you tell the pharmacy board regarding your knowledge of palliative order sets?
That if there was one, I wasn't aware of it.
What's an order set?
A pre-put together list, for lack of a better word, of things that are commonly used together. So it doesn't even have to be all drugs related. It could be, like oxygen orders or nutrition orders or other things you saw, but it was if you're doing this, these are the things that are commonly used when you do this, and the prescriber didn't have to pick anything. It was just provided as a shortcut, if you will. Like if you're doing this, this stuff is commonly used. You can it speeds up the order entry process for the prescriber.
And what did you tell the pharmacy board regarding your knowledge of the existence of one for palliative order?
If there was one, I didn't know about it.
Okay. What, if anything, did you tell the pharmacy board about why you did not confront Dr. Husel about his dosing practices?
Your Honor, can we object? Can we approach?
Sure. Okay, Mr. Zion.
All right. So, referring to your interview with the Pharmacy Board investigators, did you tell them anything about why you did not confront Dr. Husel?
Yes.
What did you tell them? What were your reasons?
That there weren't any real specific policies, guidelines, rules I could really lean on to enforce anything I might say anyway.
Like an order set?
Uh,
You just said policy
Staying.
or anything you could lean on, like an order set. I was suggesting.
Sustained, okay? Next question.
Would an order set have been one of those policies that you could have leaned on?
Could have referenced it.
Okay. All right, referring again to your interview with
Okay.
the Pharmacy Board investigator.
I'm going to shorten this up a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about an interview over the next series of questions. So instead of us hearing that line repeatedly, let's move on to the direct questions.
Okay,
And if you change the subject matter, then we can tell them what subject you're talking about then.
very good. Did you have any, in your mind, any reasons why this happened? This
Yes.
whole thing with Dr. Husel?
Yes.
What were those reasons?
In my opinion,
Yeah.
it was,
I'm sorry, the question was, what did you tell them?
Well, I thought we just short-circuited all that. I thought that's what they were telling me.
I'm sorry, just what's the question pending?
Okay, I prefaced it instead of us going through hearing every time that this is before the board, the jury is to assume all these questions are based upon his discussions with the board.
Sorry.
Okay. I thought that would be the appropriate thing.
No, it's okay.
I didn't want to hear the same prefaced question the whole time. Proceed.
Go ahead and answer.
that the combination of being night shift, Pixis overrides being somewhat lax and seemingly unmonitored, and only having one physician on at nights allowed something like this to happen.
What changed on October 24th? Why are you
What year?
terminating miles on October 24th?
What year?
Of 2018.
Okay.
With James Timmons? With James Timmons? With James Timmons. What changed?
It was, if you think about you brought up Kavanaugh earlier, if you think about that as the 1,000 micrograms, and then I think there was Versed with that one too, that you think of that as like one unit, sure, 1,000 plus Versed. Then there was, with Timmons, it ended up being two of those, two separate units. It was 1,010 of Versed, and then 10 of Dilaudid and 10 more of Versed. So it was two, in my mind, two separate, I don't even know what the word is, two separate, not instances, but it appeared to be double what I had seen before. So that was the first thing. And then the pharmacy had been, sorry to confuse the situation, but bypassed altogether. We didn't, but for that phone call, I wouldn't have known, we, pharmacy, wouldn't have known it was going on at all.
Did you also find out about what procedure was now being alleged in this case, in these cases?
Yeah, later on that Thursday evening.
And it's your testimony, you didn't know what procedure was being, these doses were being performed, you called about Janet Kavanaugh or any of the other large doses?
Correct.
And the fact that it was a palliative withdrawal, was that part of what changed for you?
It's been asked and answered.
Okay, we'll move on. Did you also interview with Mount Carmel HR?
Yes.
And do you recall what date that was?
January 9th, maybe, thereabouts.
And did you answer questions regarding Dr. Husel's fentanyl and midazolam dosing practices?
Yes.
Have you ever been able to listen to a recording of that interview?
No.
Were you able to review notes that someone else took of your answers?
Yes.
Do all of those appear to be fair and accurate answers to your questions, or
Yes.
answers to the questions that they gave you?
Appeared to be yes.
At any point in there, do you say you knew prior to October 24th of 2018 what the procedure was?
No.
Who's Bo Chang?
He was, well, still is, I guess, was a pharmacist at Mount Carmel.
Okay. Do you recall an email from Mr. Chang on Friday, February 21st of 2018?
No.
If I were to show you State's Exhibit 20C, could I have you look at that and see if you recognize this document?
Sure. You said February,
Oh,
December.
this, oh,
Yes, yes, I've seen this before.
okay. Does that appear to be fair and accurate?
Appears to be yes.
You're a part of this email chain at the top?
Hold on, sorry. Thank you.
Are we good?
I'm waiting for your question.
Are you on this email chain on this email?
Yes.
For the record, the witness pointed out when I spoke, December 21st of 2018. Does this appear to be fair and accurate?
Appears to be yes.
All right. So what happens after you've talked to all these people? Did you still work at Mount Carmel after all of this?
No, I was put on leave middle of December. I don't remember the date.
Okay. How did that happen? Tell
Got
the
it.
folks about that.
I got a call from Janet Whitty, who was the chief pharmacy officer, maybe. I don't know. She was high up at Mount Carmel at the time in the pharmacy department. And she called me on Wednesday evening as I was getting to go into work and just said, "You don't have to go in today. You're on leave."
Were any reasons, did you understand any reasons of why you were on leave at that point?
Speculation only. I could guess, but she didn't tell me specifically.
Objection as
Okay, you don't know of any, no one's informed you of any reasons, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. You didn't get any reasons? That's
Correct.
the answer?
Correct.
How long were you on leave?
Till July 11th of 19.
What happened in July, if anything, July 11th, 2019?
I was terminated.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's take our afternoon break. 15 minutes, it's close to 15 after 3. Remember the admonition? David, call us up. Have a great break, ladies and gentlemen. Just relax, hang tight, we're gone.
Sorry.
It's hard to know where to start.
Okay, let's hold on till. Okay, you ready there, Sam? Remember I instructed you earlier, you're not to discuss testimony, you're under the same rule.
Understood.
Okay? We'll see you back on the stand in 15 minutes.
Thank you.
Anything for the record, Mr. Zion?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Ms. Menashe?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, the court reporters indicated that sometimes the echoes of the talking going on in the background over here is causing her problems to hear. Try to keep it down a little bit, okay?
Just right there. Could I have all the exhibits, David? If
The ones
unless
I
I have
used?
them? Yes, please.
Absolutely. And I think this is all of them, I just scooped them up.
My job.
Is anything missing, anything in our books?
It ain't gonna make any difference.
This was just.
Yeah, I know, well, it's the fish bowls.
This is
Why do you think I
mine.
took mine down?
I mean, that's,
I think the rest
I
of
mean,
this
and
is
that's
all
just why I
exhibits.
keep
Okay.
interrupting
It should be in
because I
somewhat
just
of
can't, like, I think I hear it, but I wanna make sure I'm hearing the right thing, so.
Well, we think that the holes will help a bit.
Yeah,
We're hoping.
yeah.
Can I have the sticky notes? I think I have that. Yeah, I have it right here. I'm sorry. But I need that record, so that's in my exhibits. Timmons. Can you, which patient is this from? So this is Timmons. So wait, Timmons is, where's the mark? Wait, don't we have, you ordered